All right, folks, the return of the panel, segment number 2. Grace Marie Turner and John Gizzi are with us. Let me start with you, John, on this. We have a story from over the weekend, and it's talking about the fact that Cathy McMorris Rodgers, who, of course, is in the Republican leadership, she's the chair of the House Republican Conference. She kicked off her re-election campaign in her home state, talking about how the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, will likely never be repealed. It could be fixed, but it can't be repealed. It's statements like that from leadership. It's the the mocking of members of in his own party by Boehner, Republicans who don't want immigration reform. He mocks them. It's when he said that about also right after the shutdown of the government. He said that he was forced to close the government down because of conservatives like Ted Cruz and others. The Republicans really have a problem here, I think.
All right. I'm not going to address the overall issue because I do agree with you, Steve. There is a problem in communication. I will specifically, though, stand by Congresswoman McMorris Rodgers, whose office I was in touch with this morning because I was upset about the same thing. That was from an editorial board meeting with the Spokesman Review, a publication in Washington State that I understand is not that friendly to the Congresswoman. As her office said, she does not write headlines. If you go on and read the full interview, she makes clear again that Obamacare is not working, will not work on multiple fronts, which is what she has said all along, and reminded them she's voted numerous times to repeal it and will work to do so at every opportunity. What she said is a statement of fact, that until the president and Democrats in Congress join with Republicans, it is going to be very difficult, if not impossible, to repeal it. So the work of lawmakers opposed to the Affordable Health Care Act is simply to protect as many Americans as possible from its effect, and that means amending it. Now, this is a position not unlike that of many Republican governors who are offering alternatives. Virtually, you could take the same words and apply them to Governor Walker of Wisconsin or Governor Pence of Indiana. But in this case, it was a case of taking a statement and taking the headlines to mean something that would only cause her embarrassment. And that's not at all what Congresswoman McMorris Rodgers.
All right, fair enough. And in an earlier rebuke of what she said, I did point out that she did say it has to be repealed and has to be fixed, and that she did vote again. I said everything you said, so I was a little taken aback. But Grace Marie, whether or not that was as John did his investigative reporting and found out that the office believes it was twisted to make her look bad. Leaving her aside for a second, what's your read on Boehner's mocking of the Republicans who aren't friendly to the possibility of immigration reform?
Well, first of all, and I think it is important to set the record straight, Congresswoman Morris Rodgers, who is the top Republican woman in the House, did put out a statement this afternoon saying that that article does not reflect her view. She was not quoted. There were no direct quotes, and whatever the reporters heard was not what she said. So I think it's important to set the record straight that she says she does believe that Obamacare should be repealed. But the challenges of doing that with the president and the White House and the veto pen are enormous. So Congress does need to say, as John said, to really help reduce and minimize the damage. Immigration reform, goodness gracious, between immigration and healthcare, two of the most complex, contentious issues that we could be dealing with. Then whenever somebody says something even suggesting that this is an issue that needs to be addressed through legislation, therefore they're caving in. We have to grow up and be more sophisticated. One of the things that the Speaker has said is he does not want to pass legislation on a strictly partisan basis. That's one of the reasons we have problems with Obamacare. He wants bipartisan support. That is necessarily going to need to mean finding some middle ground and being able to move forward. So he's being a legislator, he's being a leader, he's looking for open territory so we can move forward. The American people get mad, not necessarily what they have said, but the way it's reported by our liberal press who knows the hot buttons to press to make conservatives angry.
Yeah, but Grace Marie, I mean, Boehner, I don't think he's made it easier for himself to try to work with those in his own party who he was alluding to by mocking them. You heard that statement last week on Friday or Thursday where he, made them sound like little crybabies.
Well, that doesn't help him as leadership. But I think there are factions within the Republican caucus in the House, just that there are factions within the Democratic caucus in the House. They have sometimes very different agendas. You've got to find a big enough majority to be able to pull them together to be able to move forward. So yes, it doesn't help when he says things that disparage members of his own party, but the name calling doesn't help on either side.
No. All right, let me go to John. John, we got less than a minute. So what's the future of immigration reform? Are they going to wait till the deadlines for filing, Tea Party candidates is passed and then do it?
No, I'm not sure of that, because the House Judiciary Committee under Chairman Bob Goodlatte is moving along with passing it incrementally. In other words, dealing with border security first, reform of the immigration bureaucracy, and then the special treatment for workers. All of these things perhaps in about 5 different bills. And that is something that crosses party lines and it crosses factional lines.
All right, we're going to have to end it there. John Gizzi and Grace Marie Turner, thank you both. Appreciate it very much. When we come back, Dylan Byers, ladies and gentlemen, media columnist for Politico.com, will be here, right here. Steve Malzberg Show, Newsmax Television.